guys, good morning, good morning. And we finally got some rain, man. I'm so grateful and thankful that we did. So it's a little bit late. I had some stuff to do. I'm getting some of my tax stuff ready. Going through, the software and, just cleaning up the software, getting ready for the off season. Because a lot of customers, when I lose a customer or they move or whatever during the summer, I don't normally delete them from the software until the end of the year. When I don't delete them, I actually make them inactive. So in case they call me back or whatever, I have all the information. And I go through that, and I do that a lot. So yeah. So I appreciate the comments on the video yesterday. Y'all see the 2 tires I got on the back of the truck here. I'm going to the tire shop. I'm gonna drop these 2 tires off. Drop both these tires off, let them fix that. While they're doing that, I'm gonna run up to Home Depot, get an extension cord for the cord that we broke yesterday. I gotta replace that because they need that. They're having some kind of function down there, and he hasn't said, Ray, I need you to replace that, but you got to kind of read between the lines a little bit. And I want to say that cord probably going to cost about $40, give or take. But what I'll do is I'll just replace it, and then I'll take that one home with me, and I will splice it together real good and solder it and wrap it, and it'll be a great extension cord to have around the house or whatever. You can't never, if you're a homeowner like me, man, you can't never really have too many freaking extension cords. So take care of that. So I had a couple comments, or one comment, I can't remember, where a guy coming in there and he's talking about I charge too much, for that job. I mean, I don't know what to say to that. Some jobs, people say I don't charge enough. Other ones say I charge too much. But you can pretty much bank that if we have to do a lot of labor, or it appears to be a lot of labor, I'm going to charge more money. That particular property yesterday was a little bit different than the normal bidding process. He called me and asked me to do it. My thinking was, okay, I'll do that, and then there's a lot of other stuff I recognize over there that I could do with the Bobcat. And so I told him I really didn't want to do just that if I come over there. But he was pretty insistent that he wanted me to do it, right? And then he went on to say, look, we're having some kind of event, and I really didn't go into all this because I didn't think that $300 was that big of a deal, But I can go a little bit of backstory on how I came to $300. When I told him that I did not want that I really didn't want to do that job because it wasn't enough to justify the Bobcat, and I was just trying to get him to spend, because there's a lot of Bobcat work over there that me and him talked about too. I'm not going to go into all that because that would make a longer story than it already is. So he wasn't ready to do the Bobcat work now, and keep in mind, that property is owned by my mechanics, that family. So yeah, it ain't like a total stranger. So he called me about a week later. After I told him that, he called me back about a week later. I guess maybe he reached out and maybe tried to find somebody else to do it or whatever, and he couldn't get nobody to do it, or whatever. I don't know. I didn't ask. It don't matter. So he called me back and he said, hey man, have you thought about going around the building and all? I'm like, yeah. I said, man, just like I just told y'all. So then he said, look, we're having an event down there for the kids and all for Halloween. I'll give you $300 if you can do it before the end of the month. I said, I'll tell you what, do $330 and I'll do that and spray, and I'll cut some of the grass down there too, and I cut the driveway going down to that too. I didn't really show that, I don't think, but the driveway was real tall and overgrown too, and I cut that too, you know. So that's how I came to that number. You know, of course, I'm gonna have to give $40 or $50 back for the extension cord, but I'll end up with a new extension cord at my house. So, you know, or another extension cord at my house. So I don't think it was, it might have been a little bit pricey, you know, but that's what it costs, you know, for me to do it. And then you got to look at a lot of things that y'all really don't know, such as the location. How far is it from my house and other jobs that I could do that day? If I was inefficient, then, or didn't have any other work over there in that general area or whatever, that's just what it was going to cost for me to do it. So I didn't even think about if it was a good deal or not. Well, I mean, you know, when he came at me with 300, I knew that that was something that he wanted to do, and I even did better than that. I got the spray, the $30 spray too, when it only cost me about probably 10 in spray. So I don't know, man. That's just what it costs. I'm not gonna feel bad about it. Of course, you or me wouldn't pay for that, right? I wouldn't pay $300 to have somebody do that because I'm in the business. Just like when that refrigerator guy comes to my house today, he might be there. He might walk over. He might walk up to the refrigerator, spend 5 minutes with his little meter on there and shit, and reset something, and bam, fixed. $300, $400. What's it worth to me? That's what you always got to ask, man. You can't, you know, I ain't saying you can't, but I don't like to just have set prices on stuff. I really don't. I like to, well, I analyze the situation and see what it's worth to them and the impact it's going to make and actually what it's going to cost me. You have to know what it's going to cost you to do said work. So I felt like, you know, he got a good deal. And there are some things that I will do. I didn't tell him this, but there are some things that I will do moving forward. You know, when I come over there and do the yard, you know, next summer or anytime, I will probably, you know, ride around the building and spray, you know, and, you know, I might not even charge him for that because, you know, it's not going to take anything. I sprayed it real heavy yesterday, but moving forward, I won't have to spray it, you know, that heavy. And then, you know, every so often, I'll add $20 or $30 onto the lawn to spray around the building. You know, I'll keep it down. That's one thing I didn't say in the video either. You know, you get a $100 guy over there, well, number one, he ain't replacing the extension cord. Well, number two, he might not freaking cut the extension cord. That's valid. And then on top of that, you know, he's not gonna be maintaining that. So yeah, y'all, I'm at the tire shop. So yeah, so I got the tires dropped off. I'm headed over here to the depot, gonna get that power cord, and then I'm gonna go home, man. I'll take that by there over the weekend. Yeah, and I don't mean to come down on my guy, right? I mean, my guy, he's been doing a really, you know, he does a really good job for the most part. It's just, I'm at a point in my year and in my life where I don't have a whole lot of patience and a whole lot of nonsense strength. I can't, I just, you know, and at the end of the day, he does good. And also, you know, you know, he paid back the whole debt that he owed me. You know, he owed me $916, and he paid all that money back in about 5 or 6 weeks. So, you know, kudos to him for making that happen, man, and not, you know, trying to play games with the money. You know, it's, you know, that says more about him than some of the stuff that we're going through, it, you know, that we deal with at work, you know. Good for him. I'm glad that he did, man, you know. So I've been seeing a lot of talk about, you know, commercial work versus residential work, and I can see where there's good and bad in both. You know, I have more residential than I do commercial, and even though some properties that I do is owned by a commercial company, the actual property I would consider residential because they're just houses or whatever, right? But I'm dealing with a commercial you know, owner that investment group or whatever. So, but I'm glad that we have rain. That's been a blessing. So glad to see we might be able to get some more mowing in now for real. Because last year we didn't have this kind of rain this time of year. We went 2 months with no rain last September and October. So the yards were real scraggly and, you know, not consistent at all. But when it rains like it just rained, and I know we're going to get some warmer temperatures, I don't know about today or tomorrow, but you know, we're going to be back up to 75, 80 degrees before the end of the month, I'm sure. All right, y'all, I got to pull in here and grab this check. Peace out. Okay, y'all, so I got all my running around done. I got, y'all see the 2 tires on the top of the canopy. I'm at Chick-fil-A, gonna grab me a Sammy, go home and sit on the couch, rest a little bit, do some invoicing, and yeah, because we're probably not gonna work tomorrow either, and that's okay. My guy's got some stuff he's got to do with his car, so we might work some this weekend. Let's just see how the weather does. I haven't looked at the weather past today. There's some stuff at my house that I need to do. So I got the refrigerator people coming today between 2 and 4, I think they said. So the money that we normally make, we didn't make nothing today. Nothing. Went backwards. Spent, you know, 200. Thank you. We might make good money when we're working, but I know the last few videos I've been talking a lot about you know, not working every day or whatever. So I know that there's a lot of people that are like, oh man, we do this, and that in the wintertime. And I do too. But a lot of that's work that I'll schedule so we can make more money at it. Because if I got, you know, one of my customers over in this general area that want me to come and do a little bit of a cleanup or something a little bit outside the norm, say it pays $200. Well, I don't want to do that job until we're over there doing other work too. You know, maybe cutting a couple yards on that route or whatever. We're definitely not going to be cutting all the yards. We're not cutting, you know, every route. The yards are less than they were. So, say we got a little bush job over here, and if it's not pressing, right, then and I know they're not going to hire anybody else, of course. You got to kind of know certain things, and these are my regular customers. If it's pressing, then, well, I asked them, I said, so what's your time frame, right? And then I said, oh, just do it in the next, you know, before Christmas. And I'm like, so it doesn't matter? And they're like, yeah. So what I'll do is now if it's a more lucrative job, 500 or 600, or it's a time press job, then I'll go on and do it. But if not, then, and I know it ain't going nowhere, I got to know it ain't going nowhere. I don't want anybody to say, well, man, you just put off work, you lose the job behind that. No, if I put it off, that means me and the customer have had an agreement. Now, and that's if it's, you know, there's not really nothing set in stone. It's more about the relationship with the customer. So, well, we could say if it's, you know, less than $300, maybe it's $200. It's not worthy of really cranking up both vehicles and going out. It's not worthy of certain things, you know, that expense-wise. Now, if you're new, you got to go on and do that work. Get it behind you, because you may lose it, because Ray might come along and get it if you haven't developed relationships. But if you're new and then you're trying to come and say, do my $200 job, you know, well, they're not going to hire you for that. Now, I don't want to say that it's like that with everybody, but for the most part, they're not going to hire you. My customers are not going to hire anybody else. Well, they're not going to hire anybody else outside of me if we have had a discussion about it. And my customers all my customers all know that I do the bushes and, you know, all that. So they're not going to hire anybody else to do the bushes. They're just not. And I don't, you know, and for the most part, they ain't going to hire nobody else to do it, even if the number's better. Some will, but most won't. Now, if you're going to do it for free, well, that's a whole nother, you know, thing. But so I would put that job off unless it's time pressed. For example, yesterday, with going around that building, that was not hardcore time pressed, but a little bit, because they're having a function there for Halloween, leading up to Halloween. I don't know exactly the timing of everything, but something like that. So, and plus it needed done, right? So I went on and did it because we were over there doing what? The yard and the other yard down the street from there. And we could wrap the day up with the HOA. There's a rhyme and reason that I do things out here. And the timing and all is all part of that rhyme and reason. If we weren't doing his yard and the other yard and had a little more than half the HOA to wrap up, then it might not have worked out like it did. But that's what I'm saying. You can, you know, and I knew it was going to rain. That's another factor. I knew it was going to rain today, and they said all day, you know, all night last night, and then it's going to be ugly today. So, you know, I knew that going in. So I knew that we needed to go on and get that job done, and get his yard done, and get the other yard done, and get the HOA done, so I could start invoicing, you know. So even though I might not be explaining things exactly or telling everybody everything, because I just, you know, I'm not a professional storyteller. I'm just out here, you know, chucking and trying to make a living. But if you do things different than I do, that's cool. And, you know, but I think about what I'm doing out here. And I want to make the most money. Every $5 and $10 counts, as long as I'm not giving up 20 to get it. You got to be thinking like that. And I've been doing this a long time, so I've been preparing for the winter, well, ever since freaking January. Getting ready for the winter. So the next 90 days, I'm in a spot to where I can do, you know, a few Bobcat jobs, a few this, a few that, and make really good money in the scope of time that I'm having to devote to working, right? So making good money is all about what it costs me to do the work. That determines whether you make good money, or just make good money. You might be able to do a $500 job, and I'm not talking about anybody in particular. You know, you might be able to do a $500 job, but if you got to drive an hour to do that $500 job, and I only have to drive 5 minutes, who's going to make more money? Well, I'm going to make more money. A guy like me is going to make more money, because after we do that, while you're still driving, I've been undone half the job, and been moved on to some other new money, and you still chasing that money that took you, that you're an hour away from. So I can charge less, actually, if I want to, and still make more money. I know that concept is hard for some people to grasp, because they'll say, well, I made, $4 grand today, but it cost you freaking $3,500 to do it. That's what I'm talking about, and that's an extreme example, but I'm just saying, that's all you could do that day. If I have the right equipment and you don't, if I have the right proximity and you don't, if I have the right labor and you don't, then, and we've done it 100 times before, I'm going to make more money at it than you are. And number one, I might not be able to do it faster than you, but the fact that I don't have to drive that far to and back, the hour and a half that you're spending on the road, I'm earning. So by the time you get there, I'm halfway done with the job. So the proximity of where the job is located at from your home base, along with the proximity of other work that you may have to do in that area, that makes the job more lucrative. I don't know if I'm explaining it right. I hope I am, but that's what I strive for. I strive to go out and do and be over in this area and and make, like yesterday, be over there and make 80 on that first little yard that me and Zach did, and then make 330 on that cleanup around the building, and then make another 80 at that guy's lawn. So I got $410 from him alone, because I did his yard too. And I didn't have to drive no more than 6 miles total. That's how you make money out here. And that goes right back to the density, if you ask me. A lot of people come on here and they talk about what they're making, but they don't ever talk about what it's costing them. And that's kind of really, well, that's very relevant to say the least, because the lofty number that they put out there on what they earned, right? Whether it's pressure washing or lawn care or Bobcat or, whatever, I made, well, it's an example, they'll say I made, $4,000 today, or I made $1,500 today solo, but it cost me blah, 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 blah. So I really only made $500. You see, I try to break it down, not all the way down to the penny, but I try to break it down in roundabouts, about this, about fuel, about labor, about how much everything costs. Because to me, I want to know what things cost. I know everybody's not a fan of that, but I am. And then if you got a boss that's not smart with money, right, then that's a problem. That problem trickles down to the employee. And, because the less efficient he is, the more it's costing him, the less money you make as an employee. Just saying. It's really, I used to not never think like that, but I've been doing this so long now that it's like, durr, Ray, what the hell, man? That's the only thing that matters. Your expenses are just as important as the work that you generate. Your time, which is an expense, if you ask me, is everything. That's all you have that you can't take back. I can't take back the last hour I spent, doing all my running around. I can't never get that hour back. Never. It's gone. Got to be looking at things like that. And I ain't talking about just work. I'm talking about just in life. Just like right now, y'all watching my video, y'all can't never get these 15, 20 minutes back. So seize the moment. Deuces, y'all.